All right, let's go.
Hi, everybody. Julie from Julie's World Crochet. It's me. I am here with part 4 of my Lucky Exam Blanket Whip and Talk. I am just coming up onto starting the border, so I popped on here to share and do some of this work. I am just, I'm finishing along the sides. If you saw this is a really lovely texture blanket that I've been working on. There's a front side here. There's a back side that is slightly different. It lacks kind of some of the baubles and stuff. And then front side here. So I'm facing the front side. I'm just doing my workaround. Every time I do a border, I always like to go around first with normally a single crochet, but basically just a very basic stitch, usually single crochet, to give you a nice clean sides and edges and stitches to work with when you're building up your border. This time I'm not doing single crochet, I'm doing half double crochet because that will set me up for my border that I'm going to do. I've decided to do, I think, a camel stitch border. So I'm really glad I didn't just, I don't know, if you've been following along with me, I was making the blanket and I decided to make it bigger because it didn't have enough width-wise to go with the length I'd made it. So I made it bigger. So then I wasn't going to have enough yarn to do everything I wanted to do. I had enough yarn for the body of the blanket, but not for a border, well, anything other than a slip stitch all the way around kind of border. So I ordered a pack of 3 again because I was ordering them in bags of 3. And instead of just ordering a single skein, I ordered a bag of 3. I'm really glad I did. I hadn't really thought it through, I think. But if you think of, I want to say the math of it, but it's the math of it. If you think of the shape of the blanket, that inside body part of the blanket, a skein gets me so much. Well, the outside border is a massive amount of area of the blanket. If I want to have, 2 inches going all the way around, that is about the equivalent. If I did it like Tetris pieces where you cut them and fit them inside, that is about half of the body of my blanket, if I think it through. So being that much of it, of course, I'm going to need more than just the one skein. So keep that in mind. Don't just keep one skein left over, depending on how much of the blanket you want. But once you get into, once you get into a certain amount of it, you need almost enough yarn, I guess, as almost half the size of your blanket. And I have to keep that in mind. So I'm glad I ordered the 3. I am sure I'm going to go through more than one, or at least because I have very little stash. Well, now I have more of a stash. I've kind of been on a buying spree in the last couple of months. But without having a lot of stash with extras that I can work with, it's really nice to be making something and not freaking out about, do I have enough, and having to make choices because of those limitations. There's times when, okay, this will be good enough because that's all I have. Actually I just made a cardigan for a friend's birthday, and the design I decided to go with, I went with a 3/4 length sleeve, and I didn't even do rib sleeves. I did like a kimono sleeve, but like a 3/4 length sleeve on this kind of lacy cardigan, because I only had so much yarn and I wasn't going to buy any more of that kind of yarn. So I had to work with what I had to work with and cross my fingers that I had enough and was going to make it. So this time I don't have to worry the same way. I should get enough rows that it won't be a problem. So I'm kind of excited by that. That's a new thing. Let me just get this done. I've decided to do for the border, I fussed about it early on. I decided to do a camel stitch border. And the reason I did that is, here's my thinking. I don't want like a lacy border or a scalloped border. It doesn't really go with the design of this blanket. I mean, I could have been fine with, single crochet around for a couple rounds. Or I didn't really want to do double crochet, because if I did just straight a couple rows of double crochet, it would be too, I think, too kind of drapey and loose compared with the rest of the blanket. I like a combination of stitches, like single crochet, double crochet, single crochet. That might have been okay. And, I probably would have been fine. I didn't want, and what's really common, I didn't want a ribbed stitch around. I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with it. I I didn't feel it for this, you know, like I just didn't feel it for this. Oh, actually, wait. So look at me. I'm going past. This is my corner stitch. So here's my corner. I started here when I went around. So this here is my stitch down below. So I'm going to, I have one stitch in there right now, but for a corner, I really want to have 3. So you have enough yarn to kind of make that distance. So I'm just going to do that right now. I need 2 more. Okay, so there is my third one, and I'm going to treat this like I'm working in the round. I'm just going to slip stitch that piece together so then I can step up and work here. So anyway, I'm going to show you, before I do that, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So look, this is the design. I mean, if you haven't been to the other WIP and Talks, you haven't seen it yet, but this is, it's called the Lucky Exam Blanket. It's for my friend's daughter who's starting a big program in a school. So, and I mean, really, any excuse. You stubbed a toenail, let me crochet you something, right? Isn't that how it works? So, anyway, it's very much like a texture blanket. I was excited to kind of do something. I took this one part of panel out of a free Yarnspirations pattern for a blanket. So I took that to include, but then I incorporated other stitches. I have the basket weave stitch here, and then another panel. This is a raspberry stitch. I'll be doing a full tutorial on how to do these stitches, and I followed it along. I finished it, but given the kind of feel of this blanket, now remember, it's a good size. If it had been smaller, I might have, half double crochet around a few times, might have been good. You can kind of do anything, but given the feel of this, like the look and everything, I didn't want it to be thickly textured. Like I didn't want to do puff stitches around or anything like that. And I didn't want anything all scallopy, but I did want it to feel like it had a little more substance, so that it would balance with this. I didn't want it to be lacy and frilly. So I think, and I know now, I've decided that I'm going to do the camel stitch border. And another reason is because I showed you there's the back side. This is the wrong side. It's still visually interesting, right? Because the other stitches show up and there's lovely texture still, but it doesn't have the puff stitches and these ridges. These are on a front side. So there's a front side and a right side and a wrong side, whatever. And this is the front. Well, a camel stitch border is exactly that. There will be the right side and the wrong side. The right side has all of the ridges. So what better spot? I've got a front side already. This is the place to work it, right? So coming around here, let me just see. I am on the wrong side right now. This is my front side. So that's what I have to remember, because I'm going to do the camel stitch, and you work it differently depending, because you always remember which side is your front. I was just looking it up. I've never done a border with it, but I do understand the principle of it. And it's just like, when you do front post and back post, basically, see your top line here. I'm going to work it in such a way that it pushes this over, so it sits facing up. And then when I come back with my next round, I'll push that one over. So I will end up with basically like train tracks, right? We're going to create a whole bunch of these. It kind of folds it up and it sits it facing up. So you've got these serious lines of ridges, I guess, of your top of your stitches. So when I'm on the back side, I need to work through what's called the back loop. I'll show you. I mean, again, there's going to be a tutorial, but, it's only fair in case you're working on it too. So here's the top, right? Normally you'd come in. Do I have oh, here it is. Normally you'd come in like right here if I'm working a stitch, right? I'd be coming in from this side. See if I can, there you go. There we go, right? If I'm working a stitch, I'd be inserting my hook here to work my next stitch. But instead, when you're looking at it, that's where you'd work into this bar across right here that I'm pointing at, which I'm really terribly pointing at. That is like the third loop. And that's the one I'm going to go into and work, because let me just there we go. Because when I work into that loop, which is, what the hell? Why am I, hold on, this is not sitting right. This is not sitting right. Hold on. Yes, that's it. Okay, so maybe I'll just do one here because it's too floofy. Like so. There we go. That's better. Too many stitches there otherwise. Okay. So I am going to, there's that back bar. Now, okay, so I'm not facing that because I went around and I'm not flipping my work. I was showing you this is the third loop when I'm working on this side, but I'm not. I'm going to be working on this side right now. This side, there is that third loop, and it's kind of twisted around. It doesn't sit all the way across like it does on this side, but we're still working on that back loop. That's what I'm going to grab. And in order to grab it, I'm actually going to turn my work so that I can reach underneath and grab it. Yeah, there we go. I'm just going to do half double crochets through that loop, right? Oh no, never mind. I'm facing my front side. So I do have to reach around to the back behind me, because this is my, see, I'm no help at all. This is my front side. That's what I had confused before. I'm looking at my front side. And since I'm working on my front side, I want to push these over, bringing them facing the front so they are all seen on this side. So if that's the case, I have to work on this back side through those back loops. And it's easier just to turn, it's only a half double crochet, so it's nice and easy. And it's easier just to turn your work so that you're working like straight down on this back side. Let me do a couple and I can show you. Anyway, let me get some more yarn ready. Now, and we'll see if this works. Make sure I'm doing it right. Oops. Hello. Ooh, snag that. All right. It takes a little bit to get your, to not snag the rest of the blanket. It's all right. Figuring out how to hold my yarn in a way that really is comfortable. I think I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to fold the blanket over as I go by is kind of the easiest way. Let me take a look in just a second and see if I'm doing this right. Right here. And grabbing the right thing. Well, that looks not bad. So, see, here we go. Here's the end of the row. This here is what I'm working into, working the back bars. So you can see it's pushing this forward so it sits like a ridge. Right? Can I see that? And then when I come around again, I'm going to work the back bars and that'll fold this over. And so I will end up with, you know, an inch or two of these kind of tracks that are present, making a nice clean border. I probably would, it's only going to make so much more difference than, say, doing a double crochet all the way around, but it makes me happy, so I might as well give it a go. And it means I've tried something new. There's going to be plenty of other blankets I do that are reversible, so I would never end up doing, I probably wouldn't do this border on a reversible blanket, right? So this is my shot. Okay, so definitely fold over the blanket while I work so if the yarn's not in my way. Get used to how to look at this. That's that one. Where's, this must be the stitch here. I got to make sure I don't, I actually grab the right stitch and don't grab just the second loop, like I'm doing a back loop crochet. I'm not. Okay, so this is all right. It's actually pretty easy to see which one the back loop is if I just work completely on the back side here. I guess I'll have to check myself periodically because I do make errors, but that'll be fine. I hope that wind in that, although I can change it in the blinds, is okay. If it's a problem, I will go change it in a little bit. My cat was in there before and I didn't have the heart to close the window on her. But if you hear kind of this kind of scraping-ish kind of sound, it's the blinds responding to the wind. I really like to have windows open and everything, and that window's open actually pretty much year round, and my cat really loves to sit in the window and look out. Yeah, there we go. That's going to be okay. All right. I think I'm doing all right. So I tend to like to talk about different things when we're on, while I'm sitting here doing the work or plugging through my WIP here. So I don't have tremendous amounts of things to talk about, but someone commented, one of the comments, someone suggested, and I agree, although I have to be more prepared, that we also talk about music. I talked about book series I liked. I talked about movies that I think are important, or thinking about the movies I think, like there's some movies that everyone should see, I think, really. Like they affect us in important ways, like who we are as human beings. We know who we are and who we want to be based on the stories we tell ourselves. That's really important, whether it's through film, through novels, comic books, and music. Music counts too. So, I think that's a really good idea, and I do want to do that. I can start a little bit today, and I'm, but this is, I need to think about it more and come up with, oh, what have I done? And come up with, I don't know, a more intensive conversation to have, I guess. Okay, wait, have I? That's that one there. Okay, yeah. So it feels like this one's a little twisted up and doesn't want me to grab it the way I want to grab it. I'm going to have to check periodically to make sure I'm not grabbing the wrong loop. I mean, I don't think I am, but I could be. So we'll find out. Anyway, back to music. So I'm not trying to be morbid or dark or anything else, but I think a way that I want to look at it, like one day I'll be talking about the music that I clean to. Don't we all have music that we clean house to? It's specific music. And the music that I like all kinds of music. And the music that I clean to is my early 90s music, a Collective Soul, Pearl Jam. There's a couple of fun, like there's definitely a few albums that have always been my house cleaning music. But other things apply, like gardening. Gardening's for jazz. I don't know why. It's the only thing that works is jazz. And I'm not a jazz listener typically, but yeah, in the garden's got to be jazz. So I find that really interesting, and I'd love to know what sorts of things, like is there certain music that's for when you're driving, showering, like in the bathroom getting ready, house cleaning, like I said, reading a book, like what is it that you like to have specific music for specific things? That's one. And two, on the morbid dark side, have you ever thought, like, the world is changing, and we used to have great big funerals and all this other stuff. I'm not trying to be dark. I'm just saying I've had reason in my life to think about this. And, I don't have a big family. And I've lived in several different places. So the people that I'm close to and some members of my family are scattered all over. It is kind of unreasonable to think that I would have any kind of big funeral, or that too many of the people, it's not that we're not close, but they're not all people that are going to spend thousands of dollars to come attend my funeral. Like, that's not really a reasonable thing. And on top of that, I don't want a funeral. I never have. I don't like them. I think there's other personal things you can do, and you should do whatever's right for you. But none of that is in my wheelhouse of what's right for me. So, that being said, on that front, you still want to do something, I don't know, in some capacity. And I think people deserve a chance to say goodbye, to grieve, to celebrate your life, to otherwise have a moment that is your goodbye. And one of the things I had thought of, and I don't know if I thought of it, if I don't know if I've ever seen it before. I don't think so, but I'm sure there's nothing new here. But one of the things I had considered is making an album, of the songs that mean something to you or message something or just always made you feel good when you sat, were sitting outside and quietly, whatever. Songs that you care about. Because music moves us, more than anything else. Music can reach right down into your heart and soul, right past your ear, your brain, and make you feel and experience and moves us in really important ways. And I love that. Like, I just love that. I wish I had musical talent. I have none. I mean, I really have none. I couldn't sing a note if I tried. I can keep a beat. That's all I got going for me. But that doesn't make me in any way creative or able to kind of do anything in that vein. But that's okay. I can appreciate it. There's nothing wrong with being a super appreciator, right? So I'm that's fine. But my thinking was, and one of my intentions, there are some songs that I listen to regularly that are important to me for how they make me feel or their ideas, whatever, that I I would, you know what I mean? Like, I would want to share that. Like, that's what I'm thinking of. Making, how you used to way back in the day when, when it was first digital music, even mixtapes, actually, when you had the mixtapes, I was there. I did that. I'm old enough. I was sitting by the radio and the guy would talk all the way through the intro. Like, just stop talking the split second before the lyrics start. And you could never get that right with some of those DJs were really good. But whatever, you'd really work at it so you could get you could tape your songs off the radio and make yourself a mixtape. And I'll tell you, I was really lucky. I was one of the first, when they first came out with like a dual cassette tape one, so you could tape from one tape to the other. That was sweet. I'm that old. That's where I'm from. So you used to make these kind of mixed combination tapes, as gifts. And I suppose playlists now, I guess, I don't know, are the young people gifting playlists? I don't know how that works. But along those lines, prepare a playlist that I would want for my friends and the people I cared about for one last shared time with me. That's the way I look at it. And in that light, what are some of the songs you would put on there? Have you ever thought about that? So, yeah. So I'll give you a couple offhand because I have thought about it. For one thing, one thing I know for sure, I don't know how I'll get a copy of it because I only have it online, but I mean, there's ways and means. But if there's a flash mob, which I know is not a thing anymore, but one of my very favorite pieces of music is Ode to Joy, Beethoven's Ode to Joy. I really love it. And the full classical piece and the whole bit. And there was a flash mob, and I think it might have been in Amsterdam, Antwerp, Belgium, maybe. You probably would know it to see it. If not, I'll try and put a link down below. I listen to that every couple of months. That's the only place I can find it. I put it on because it moves me every single time. So that's one piece. That's probably my only classical big piece. I also have a little thing for bagpipes. I wouldn't stick this too hard on anyone, but I'm thinking of just a couple of classical pieces. But oh my God, from the soundtrack for Dead Poets Society, that includes the bagpipes. That end theme song, I think that's really lovely. Sound of Silence, but the disturbed version from Conan's on Conan O'Brien. So if you haven't, Sound of Silence has always been lovely. I love Paul Simon and Simon Garfunkel, love them. But the disturbed version that he performed on Conan is so fantastic, so powerful. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and Google it. It's on there, or YouTube it. It's just do a search. You'll find it's beautiful. There's so many other kind of songs like that. I have a couple of fun ones. One of them is Finger 11 One Thing. I don't know why. It just actually Ramble On. Ramble On. Again, the Led Zeppelin version is fine, but I really love Train's version of Ramble On. But that is a song that for whatever reason, it's 20 years later now, I can still listen to it anytime. I somehow never get sick of it. Stuff like that. And just to kind of have a moment and share with your friends, your family, your people, the things like some moments, some emotions, some to feel together, to listen together. I like the idea that, one of my friends will take my playlist and walk out onto a, like a shore or a cliff or out into the woods and sit outside and just have a listen, make themselves a picnic, sit down and spend an hour with me one last time. So I just think that's lovely. I much prefer that than, and I'm not going to slam people's funeral wishes, I guess, but I really like that and prefer that to, some of the big formal funerals I've been to. And part of it is probably because I'm not religious, so I don't feel, I don't get the benefit of, I guess, of being in a service and participating in also in a service, because that's not me. But you should do whatever's right for you, of course. And I don't mind being there. I don't mind the service. Don't get me wrong. I just don't get the same emotional release from that, or participation, or whatever else. I can just respect and honor, your wishes. So this is what it's looking like. So this is working okay, right? Into the back loop there. And then I told you when it comes again, this will fold, the next time around, it's going to fold this one forward. And I'm going to have several of them like that, where it's folded over, so you'll get kind of like a whole track that goes all the way around. And I'm pleased with that. I think that'll be good. But I recognize that I'm going to have to go around probably 4 or 5 times, which means I definitely need to have kind of almost all the yarn that I got for this. I'll let you know. I'm going to find out. I told you I will do the tutorial after. The biggest part of the tutorial will be a breakdown of what parts to put together for the size blanket you want. So then we can estimate how much yarn you'll need, and be good to go for all of it. But I'm really pleased. I'm going to be excited when this is done. I'm excited to be able to send it to her. I mailed off my other stuff. I made the other little blanket, the baby blanket, which I don't have here. You would have seen the tutorial came out. I still have the tutorial for the beach cover to do. And then, you know what? I'm going to take a moment. I want to show you this. I jumped ahead. The reason I hadn't done this that night is because I got new yarn. And I bought, one of the yarns I bought, I don't usually buy variegated or self-striping yarn, not very often. But I did want to buy one. Because it was a good price. It was available. And I saw this one and I couldn't resist, because I thought the colors were really ideal for my friend who's visiting. And I had wanted to make her something along this line. I just hadn't found the yarn I wanted to use or anything. And then I bought the Mandala Ombre. And these are the colorways that go with it. Let me see if it, look how lovely that is. I just love the colors. I love how this goes together. I showed you the cake when I kind of got it in, and if I have it really handy and easy, I'll pull it up. But anyway, I was looking at the cake, and I couldn't stop myself from just doing a little bit to see how it is. Now, I will say this is thinner than I had expected it would be. Again, not necessarily experienced with, but look at this. Okay, wait, actually, I can show you. This is what I mean. This is a 4-weight. You know what? I will show you. Tell me what you think on this. This is what I'm talking about. First off, your yarn, whatever weight it is, I'll tell you, whatever you choose it is, that's what it is. And the reason I say that is, here, let me grab, oh, look what I did. Move that. Here is that yarn. And I guess I'll show you the cake too, if I can find where it is. Here we go. Okay. First off, these are the cakes I had bought. Came with 3 in a pack. I bought them by the bag. Look how lovely these are. I just love how these colors are together. And I think I love it because it's got the white, not like a stripe of white, but it's got this kind of mottled staining on the yarn, like coloring on the yarn. And boy, I was looking at it. You know what it's like. I mean, you know what it's like. Oh, I'm going to put it back in here. I know you know what it's like. That's why we're all here. We all get this stuff, right? So I just could not resist trying to work it up. So it's a little bit thicker because I've never worked it before. I've wanted to for a long time. I've seen a number of people who've, they got their yarn and they were doing it. That's great. And so I was just, I don't know, I want to say jealous, but I had never worked with it. So it's thinner than I thought it would be. I'm still okay doing the scarf and the hat, but it's not a big floofy. It's thinner. I actually love it so much. I want to make myself a shirt with it. So I need to buy myself more. I really debated. I started up doing this and I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should keep this to do a shirt for myself. But honestly, this colorway is so perfect for her, my friend, that I can't resist not doing it. And I love the feel of it. Like, it feels so good. I really, really like this yarn. So yeah, I was like, why not keep doing this one and just buy myself more? Because I really like it and I want a whole shirt, at least with one, like, yeah, definitely. I'm really pleased. If you have never tried Mandala Ombre, I'm going to recommend it. But when I got, the other thing I bought, for my friend's birthday, I'm doing her, blanket. So this is the yarn I'll be using. This is Karen Simply Soft, and I'll be using this for the project that I'm starting at the beginning of August. So get yourself 2,700 yards. Well, actually, you can do a smaller blanket. You can do it in all sizes. When I said the updating on my last video, when I said upcoming projects, that's when I have a link to the project, and I will have more explanation later. But you can do it in all sizes. So actually anywhere from, 1,700 up to 3,000 yards, depending on what size you want your ultimate blanket. Actually, you can make it even bigger. You can king size. I just don't know what the yardage is going to be for that. I have 2,800 yards of this, of Karen Simply Soft. I'm going to make the size that goes with this. That's all I got for you. But when I got this, I was sitting there and I said, I don't know if this seems like a thin 4, right? This is a 4-weight. And I said, I thought this looked like a thin 4-weight. I don't know how well it's going to focus, but maybe not. I don't have that experience. Okay, maybe it's really good. But then I have, why I'm thinking that? I'm thinking that. Same with this, actually. Let me see what these look like side by side. I never did put them side by side. This as well. This is a 4-weight. Now, that seemed a little more reasonable, but it's a little bit softer, right? Let me see what these are side by side. I don't know. So, okay, so it's not terrible. So, yeah, okay, these are 4. And the reason I say, I'll put this down for a second. Oh, shit. Let me put this one down. With my gray, this is the Premier Basics. I mean, I've been working with this so much that, okay, you know what? I'm sorry. This is thicker. I'm telling you, it doesn't look as distinctive in here, but it is just noticeably bulkier to work with, in my opinion. I guess that's why the rule is whatever you come up with, like whatever you think it is, go with it. It's fine. One thing that's really handy, and just as a little advice, I'll give you a preemptive, look, I've mixed them all up. I'll give you a preemptive kind of hint at future commentary or videos. because one thing that's really handy, a resource that's online, if you were like me, where you have a bunch of different projects on the go, you have a bunch of different yarns, sometimes you have yarn left over, sometimes you bought yourself some yarn and there we go. Sometimes you bought yourself some yarn and you wanted, you can't get more of it, but you want to do something more with it than your skein or two will do, and you want to know about combining it and how to work it and stuff. One thing that I recommend as a resource is there's if I'll have to look it up. It is, I'll look it up and put a link down below, but yarn equivalencies. So there's a site you can go on to that it's got pretty much most yarns, not all of them, but certainly anything that's relatively common, even some that are to me obscure, that you put in your yarn and it will give you a list of what is a list of equivalent yarns. So 80% equivalent, it tells you like based on what the content is, if it's acrylic, if it's wool, if the elasticity, the like weight of it, how well is it equivalent? Because some of them are pretty much interchangeable almost. And some of them are pretty close and they'll work pretty well. Some of them are fine, even though they all say 4. I couldn't work the Premier Basics and this and I know I can't. I know it's not like I couldn't do a panel of the Premier and then do a solid panel of the thinner yarn with the same number of stitches and have it turn out the same way. I'd have to change the gauge on my hook size so I'd get a different gauge so that I could make that distance well. Or I'd have to only do like a row and then a row and alternate in order to keep the balance. Otherwise, because I've done this before, otherwise you'll have, even if the yarns are the same weight, one will be this size, and even with the same hook, same number of stitches, it'll be slightly tinier. I mean, that's what gauge is, right? So one of the ways to increase or to work it is set yourself up when you're preparing to do that in a way that works really well. You can use this yarn equivalency in order to kind of see what would pair really well. Or if it won't pair, you know what the problem is and have an idea how to adjust it. Maybe go up a size in hook or down a size in a hook size. Maybe you're going to want to, change your stitches over, and that's how you end up with a texture blanket like this because you're doing something different. All of those things count and matter. So, excuse me. So I need a drink. So that's why. But anyway, today's little whip and talk is a day late because I am just in love with this colorway. I don't even know what this colorway is called. I don't think I ever told you guys what this colorway is called. Mantra. This is Mandela Ombre, and the colorway is called Mantra. So it's I'm enjoying it so much. And that's what happened is I was busy looking at it, and I thought I want to see what it looks like when you work it up. And I love these colors. And was it going to look okay if I had set it in a long scarf this way? Like, I didn't want to do it side to side. I just wanted to do the long waist scarf. And I've put in that little pocket that you know about so that when you come around, you can just tuck it in. You know what I'm talking about. So altogether, entirely thrilled with this yarn. And I'm putting this down. I had, over time you'll get to know that I have some health issues. So last night was one of those nights when I was up quite a lot. So I plugged myself down and I let myself play with it. And it was lovely. I'm really pleased. Okay, so back to where I was at. Oh, look at me. I pulled up a bunch. There we go. That's all right. All right, back to music. So there's all kinds of now, bunch of you guys, you might not all be Canadian. I don't know if you've ever heard of Tragically Hip. For my fellow Canadians, you know exactly who I'm talking about. If you have not heard Tragically Hip, I highly recommend it. They are just fantastic and still one of my very favorite bands ever. Certainly my favorite Canadian band. And I would include Ahead by a Century on my album, that my playlist that I want to share with y'all. I do I don't know. I have so many great memories with it, just in the background. It's not like a dance song or anything, but it's just a song that has lifted me along at various points in my life, if that makes better sense. So those are songs. All the songs I've mentioned so far, those are songs I'd have in it. And we all have different musical tastes. I like rock. I like blues. I actually like all kinds of stuff. I like rap, but not too much. I don't like thrash metal. I mean, if that helps, it's not. I never got into that. Um, and even though I was an '80s person, I'm picky about my '80s music. There's some I like that are great memories, and I always enjoy. A lot of the '80s music I don't enjoy. I am more of a like I'll take some '70s and jump right into the '90s. I love my '90s music, 2000s, even now. Like all the decades I really love. '80s is one of my least favorite, with some exceptions. If you have an exception to that, then I absolutely love it. But otherwise, yeah, I can take or leave my own. Even at the time, I wasn't thrilled with the music. Let me say. So I'm pretty pleased. I'm pretty pleased with where the music has come since then. I'm trying to think what other kinds of songs. Like I have all kinds of, stuff that there's stuff that just reaches right down to your toes, right? And I don't know. I don't even know what to say. I have all kinds, but here's like an odd fun fact. When I was, when I first learned to drive, my father's car was where I was. My father was teaching me to drive. It was my father's car, and when you first drive, you drive your parents' cars, so that's what I was driving. And the radio broke. And this is in the day before you had, believe it or not, before you had CD players, cassette tape players, even. All we had was a radio. It was radio or nothing. There's no USB, no nothing, let alone, we didn't even have an 8-track actually in this one. In this particular car, it was just the radio. The radio broke. So for my first, year or two driving, I had no radio. I drove in complete silence. And then that became my car. So my next 2 years after that, I drove in complete silence. I never did get that radio fixed, which, was fine for me. I didn't care. And then I guess I didn't really even notice. But ever since then, I found I don't really like driving with radio on. And I know people are going to freak out. This is not something that, like, they can't imagine driving without music on. It's the first thing they do, blah, 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 blah. I don't even know what to say. To this day, I prefer not having radio on. I've tried over and over again. I've got a radio. I've got the whole deal. I bet you it's been on 5 times in the car's lifetime. I just can't be bothered. And I sometimes turn it on. I'm not a real big fan of radio to begin with. I don't like people talking on the radio. I don't like the disc jockeys and everything. So like I'm good and enjoying the song, but then I'm going to get a song that I don't like and don't want to hear, and there's nothing else good on, or they're all talking and then I don't want to hear you anymore and I turn you off. So maybe I'll change. Maybe I'll do some things. I did drive once listening to an audiobook and I enjoyed that. It was a long trip. And I do put on, like I make playlists and I specifically put it on when I'm road tripping. I love a good road trip. I really enjoy, I enjoy road tripping. I like driving. I like driving at night. That's when I'll have music. But regular day to day around town, that sort of stuff, no. I'm lost in my own thoughts anyway. I don't put on music. Anyway, so this is working out really well. I'm gonna get off now. I'm gonna try and keep this whip and talk kind of short. I want to hear about the music that you listen to and the music you would put on. We'll call it the last share. This is, your last lessons, your last share with your friends and family. Have you thought about the songs that really speak to you, that you would, if I knew you and I got this thing, if I walked, over to my beach and sat on one of the dunes and had myself a glass of wine and put the music on and played it loud and just felt nature and listened to it, what would you want to be sharing with, if not me, with the people you care about and you love? So I thought that's an interesting question to me. It really helps me pare down from the songs I just love to bop to. And there's one or two of those on my album. They don't have to be deep and meaningful. They just have to be important to you. So there's one or two that are, just for the fun of it, because it always brightens my day no matter what through all the years. So, but all of those songs, what would be your last share? That always interests me. Because there's all kinds of music that I really like and I really enjoy, and that I still do 20 years later get a kick out of, or love the pounding beat or all that stuff, but it's not necessarily meaningful for me, or has any deep emotion that goes to it, or thoughts behind it, or anything else. Just, I like it loud. That's all I got to say for the song. I just always like it loud. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think. I'm going to keep working on this. I'm going to, next time you see it, I'll be starting another project on my next Whip and Talk. I think I might do another one where depends how long it takes me to work on this border. You might get another Whip and Talk on the border, depends. But then after that, I will start my next project, which I think is going to be a shirt for me. And then I think, I'm not exactly sure yet. And then you will see the final bit of this, and I will have a tutorial ready to go as soon as possible. As soon as I'm done this, and I'm sure what my yarn use was and everything else, I will have that out here so that you all can finish. It's turned out so much better than I thought it would. I'm really, really happy with it. And like I said, you can resize this anytime. That'll be part of the tutorial. So you don't have to make it this big. This is a pretty big blanket. You can make a much smaller throw that's going to be really awesome and just as lovely. Like, it'll be balanced and really good. And I'll have some adjustments that you can make so you can choose what size you want. So this will be great fun. Anyway, I was so glad to talk to you. It's a lovely day outside. I hope everything is well, and we will talk soon. Tell me about your music.